going to go through some great stress busters that I hope will help all our attendees to move positively forward and use this knowledge in a really powerful way. So is that your goal as well? Awesome, wonderful. So it's important to know that when we talk about emotional intelligence, that we understand that throughout our life, we've been measured by our IQ. That's the standard way through our educational system that we've measured intellect. In the past decade, this emotional intelligence has become a very important topic. And the reason why it is it is not exclusive of your IQ, but instead a merger, putting together both IQ and EQ. And what that means is that you become more familiar with yourself and the items or people or situations that actually trigger you and get you to a point where you're feeling out of sorts. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And Karen, I'm not sure when you want to put in the actual slide as far as where everybody is in their current stress level. So you tell me when you're ready to do that, because I think this would be a great place as Jean advances on to our next slide.
I think before we go on, we should have a small survey about the sources of stress. And Marina has prepared such a little survey for you. So we just now kick it off. Marina, can you share the survey for everybody about the sources of stress? So, because different people get stressed by different issues or triggered by different issues. So we have the scale more between 5 and 9 rather than a very unstressed scenario, right? Yeah, so some people are medium stressed and some people are in the region 7, 8, 9, so 9 points out of 10. That's already quite some stress. Okay, so you are here at the right place to learn how to overcome it.
Yeah, I would say, Karen, that this is very similar to what we are seeing in America, in that certainly our normal stressors, and then you add in the pandemic and so much what's going on around us. So certainly we're going to clarify so much of that for all our attendees. So let me talk about the work we do. So we reside in New York State, and we're one of the few organizations in the country that actually look at the brain at work. And what that means is my counterparts, scientists, have had the opportunity to put individuals in high-res MRI machines so that they can look at their brains in direct correlation to work items. So they might give them specific words and watch how their brain is triggered. Do they see it going to the threat region and seeing that highlighted? Do they describe a situation and see again how a person reacts to it? And it is through this knowledge, it is through this science that we're able to better share with people about their brain so that they can obviously make decisions that are more based on math and science than they are based on opinion. And I don't want anyone to worry, we don't have a science class here today. As you look at our next slide, what we do is we make, Jean, please advance the slide. What we do is we make our teachings very user-friendly, and the brain loves symbols. It makes it more memorable when it has that ability to have a symbol. So for the time we have together, and I hope after, we can consider that we compare our brain to a filing cabinet, that big, bulky apparatus. And from the point that we are in the womb, we have been downloaded pendaflexes, file folders in our filing cabinets from our parents, from our grandparents. And when we come out into the world, we already have the foundation of preferences that we have stored. What happens over the course of our lifetime is we continue to store information in our brain. And in doing so, the brain considers this information very important to our general well-being. So it's going to store tragedy. It's going to store triumph. It's going to store anything that it feels is important to keep you protected and keep you aware. So it becomes your personal Google within the confines of your subconscious. And that's a really important thing, because often we think that we're present throughout our day, and the brain could never operate that way. It would take way too much energy for you to do anything if the brain didn't use a storage system by which to collect information. So I want to make sure that, this is something that really resonates with you, so that you're thinking about what have you stored over the course of your lifetime, and how does that then impact your interactions throughout a daily basis. So Karen, when you see this filing cabinet, what comes to your mind? What are you thinking about?
So I would say when I was born, the great focus of my parents was always freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this has been a topic throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was very lucky that my parents, for instance, wanted me to have not just an apprenticeship, but to study and to be able to stand my own women in life.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was one of the main messages that I prenatally caught. And then, of course, then you have to learn, well, it's a dance between independence and dependence, or interdependence. So, of course, the brain can learn and you can overcome your primary preferences, or not overcome, but let's say complemented by a better tool case.
Exactly. But I'm sure that's what brought you here today, is the way in which you were raised was obviously a very important part of your storage system. And the directions that you've taken were largely based on that. So again, as we look at the next slide, what I want to make everyone aware of when we're getting to what stress actually is, a lot of times we describe things like stress, and it has that very, very negative connotation to it. And we just think about stress in a way that actually makes our brain more stressed. And I just want to make sure that our participants understand that this ability for us to stretch is really healthy. But when we are stretching too far, when we're at that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I want to share with you that the brain was not designed that way. It was not designed, as we look at the next slide, for that consistent stress. So I want to go back to the evolution of our brain. Although we think it's very advanced, we largely still have the caveman brain. So our prefrontal cortex has continued to develop, but we very, very much have that fight or flight methodology. We have 5.5 times more real estate dedicated to threat than we do reward. So that's a lot of our mechanism. And what I'd love all our participants to do today is, I'd like you to take your two fists and put them together. If you could go like this. So if everybody can go like that. All right, look at what your two fists look like. That is the size of your brain. So be thinking about that, right? And it's amazing how much energy that actually requires for that size. So when we're looking at how the brain was designed, it was designed for fight or flight. I see a tiger. What I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare to fend off that tiger. But as soon as that tiger is gone, I should be going back to my normal state. All right. So as you look at the next slide, what I want you to be thinking about is level 1 is, I want to have you imagine that you're taking a walk through a beautiful fall day, and you're surrounded by trees, and you're hearing the leaves underneath your feet below your sneakers. And all of a sudden you hear a rustling, and you're continuing to walk, but your ears perk up, and you wonder, what is that? Is that some type of animal? Is that a fox perhaps? And you continue to walk, but you're a little bit more cautious as you're walking. You are a little bit more focused. Your eyes are now looking in a different way. You're listening more intently. Your sense of smell is increasing. This is what's called level 1 threat. So your body is just beginning to get into the mode of alertness. Is there something that you need to be protected of? When you get into level 2 threat, now indeed you see 4 legs just a little bit up in the distance. And now you can't quite focus, but you're wondering, is it a dog? Is it a fox? And now you start to feel your pulse increasing. You're starting to get a little breathless. Your body is adjusting to prepare you. Cortisol, that particular chemical, is now putting into action, because if you have to run, it wants to make sure that you have all the resources to do so. Your blood flow is going to be focused in the appendages that you're going to need to escape. Your focus and your ability to have attention starts to diminish. Your logical thinking starts to get reduced. And now when you go into that level 3 threat, this is full blown. You have identified that it is indeed a wild animal. And now you have made the determination to run. So the only thing that is on your mind is your safety. How do you escape? When you get into that full-blown panic, we never knew that that prefrontal cortex goes completely dark. Your logical thinking is impaired. And you now are, and we say this in America again to make it sticky, is it's literally like a drunken state. You are inebriated and you cannot do anything but get to a safe place. And what we're seeing, Karen, within our work world is people are in this level 2 threat. They're in this diminishment, right? They're not working up to their potential and they don't realize it. Mm-hmm. During the pandemic, we were collecting a lot of data, and especially from women, they had so many duties and responsibilities
Yeah.
This level 2 is not healthy. The brain was never designed to stay in a consistent state of threat.
Yeah.
All right. So that's why it's so important to know where you are. Are you just thinking, wait a minute here, do I see that box? Is this really something I have to be afraid of? But when you get to that level 3, and based on the scores in your survey, you have participants that are either in level 2 or in level 3.
Yeah.
And look at that animation about how that higher cortex gets disabled. What comes to your mind when you see that?
Are you talking to me or to everybody?
I can talk to you. I can talk to everybody. We can do whatever.
Okay. So I was working in investment banking and heading a team in investment banking for more than 10 years, and I know exactly what you're talking about. So I would say this was mainly level 3.
Wow.
Yeah, so you have no weekend, you work on Sundays, you work on Saturdays, you have board meetings or board members calling you on Sunday afternoon, you go, you sit in the office until 12 o'clock at night. So all these are kinds of stuff, where you are level 3. And I think a lot of women do have the problem, or do have the challenge that they have also to equate that with their personal life. So I have 3 kids, for instance. So so how do you do that? And my take is, well, so there must be a balance. So you have to withdraw from the situation entirely. So you have to go out of your biotop, or whatever you call it, out of this space, out of this aquarium, and find an entire different place where you can calm down. Because otherwise, I saw so many people in investment banking with a heart attack after 10 years.
Yeah. No.
Otherwise, you're just nuts.
Yeah, and Philomena asked a great question. She asked a question about, is this stress? And what I could say to you is, within the confines of your filing cabinets, if you have 3 bad interactions with a person, just 3, your brain is going to store that. And when you as much as get an email from that person, your brain is going to go to level 1 threat. All right, just 3 interactions. And your brain now has said, wait a minute here. Yep. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a situation where you need to be warned. And it's going to start to prepare you much in the way that the walk that I had taken you on does. So these are the different levels of stress. Karen, you gave such a great example. So as we look at the next slide, what I would say to you is that because the brain was not designed for that level, it's fight or flight, not this consistent stress. You said people were having heart attacks. The body has to do something with it. So what the first part of it is it gives you warning signs. It's saying, hey, you know what? Notice me. Your blood pressure goes up. You could have anxiety. That anxiety can go right into a full-blown anxiety disorder. I have a vice president of a hospital. She is consistently a rash from the top of her head to the tip of her toes. And her dermatologist keeps on saying to her, it's stress. It is not your laundry detergent. The brain is so wise. It will give you plenty of warning signs, but you have to listen to them, because these are the things that it is helping you identify and get past. But if you ignore it, you made a change, Karen, right? You made a major life change. So those are the things, yeah, those are the things that we want to be thinking about, is that when you have stored this in your filing cabinets, your brain is going to shortcut to that. If that person has been, controversial with you, just seeing that person is again going to get you in that level 1 threat. Knowing this, that you mentally shortcut this way, the brain works very, very quickly. And that's so important for everyone to know. And as you look at the brain, although a small organ, takes the bulk of your energy, all right? So even though it's only 2% of your body, it uses 20% of your energy. And that's at a place in space, as you look at the next slide, where that's just staying in your fixed mindset. So what I want to share with you is, this is the type of work we do and what we look at. To your right is your fixed mindset. So what that means is, when you're always shortcutting to your filing cabinets, you're just using what you stored. The brain doesn't light up. It doesn't have to. Oh, you have this? I'm going to just grab it and I'm going to use it. All right? What you've invited me to talk about today is that left brain. See that beautiful rainbow, that gorgeous fall leaves with all the different colors? Karen, there's your neuroplasticity.
Yes.
There it is right there. All right?
Exactly.
So when you stretch, when you do something different, anything that you do that's outside of that fixed mindset, your brain's like, Karen, what are you doing? I love this dark brain. This is wonderful. But greatness is in this rainbow, creating these new connections that are healthier for you. And this is when you're getting your brain thinking, look at how beautiful that it looks.
Yeah, and there's the common recommendation: do 3 new things every day. Whether you take a different route to your workplace, or whether you jog a different distance, or a different or talk to people you don't know. So do 3 different things every day, just to create a higher neuroplasticity of your brain.
But that's not easy. So if any of our participants have ever worked out a muscle in their body, for me, I'm a big swimmer. I would love a 2-piece bathing suit. So I'm always so focused on my core. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of work. 1-piece bathing suit ends up working out fine, right? So again, what we're suggesting here is hard work. It is not easy to get to that. But as you look at the next slide, what our focus really is how do we get you to the rainbow? Again, I want you to be thinking about this rainbow and how you do that. And this is what I'm so excited to talk to you about next year, Karen, is this emotional intelligence. How do we really practice this? How do we get to that rainbow brain? And it's very, very realistic for us to do. And I want to spend a few minutes talking about what we're going to talk about, and that's these 2 systems of thinking. That dark brain, that's system 1. This is wonderful work, is that shortcut, that fast, intuitive, you're not aware, this is all happening in your subconscious. But within emotional intelligence, what we ask you to do is work in system 2. How do you slow this down? So let's say you've had 3 unfortunate experiences with Mary. Well, she's already in the threat region of your brain. She took a file folder. She's residing there, all right? So we know where Mary is. It's not a good place. So when you know that Mary's there, that's emotional intelligence. When you're like, I know that Mary and I have a difficulty in getting along. Or it might be in a mixed team. There might be someone in your mixed team. Whatever the case may be, right? Knowing that, stopping yourself, just doing that, Karen, lights up your brain.
Yes.
So
it's like a
instead of
muscle
just,
training.
yeah, exactly. So what we're really going to be talking about and giving people the tools to do in the program that we're doing together is that system 2, right? That's going to be the great work that we're going to be doing, because these are wonderful examples of recognizing this. This is emotional intelligence. The clients that we work with, they literally say to each other, I'm in level 1 threat. Oh, that situation put me in level 2. See, when you label it, that's actually healthy. When you say it out loud, not in your head, the brain prefers that. It prefers that recognition. So these are great real world examples. And Karen, what I can say to you is, you know that we have a women's forum. You know that in America we have women's conferences.
Yes.
And boy, are women mean to themselves. Women are way meaner with their self-talk.
Absolutely.
Than men are.
Yes.
And there, I'm telling you, you think that that doesn't matter? That matters.
It does matter. It does matter. And I think it's the old stereotypes. And it's something which we learned. So to fight the other woman.
Well, I certainly think there's not enough women supporting women, but I don't see enough women supporting themselves. See, watch what you're telling yourself, because if you tell your brain something, the crazy thing, it believes it. And not only does it believe it, but it actually looks for items out in your environment that reinforce it. That's how it will help you with this negativity. It will laser focus on Mary. And if Mary brings in a ham sandwich that day, you're going to say, oh, she knows I hate ham. That's why she brought that ham sandwich in. You start to pick up on all these things that your brain is looking for, but they start to become literally just in your head.
Well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy at the end of the day, because you're focusing, your energy is flowing where you're focusing on. And if you think, Mary is a bad person, then your energy will go there, whatever you do. So the question is, how do you switch it?
That's exactly right. And when we're talking about this surviving stress, and we have PhDs in behavioral neuroscience on our team. We have psychiatrists, so we're so lucky to have psychiatrists. And my son actually has his PhD in behavioral psychology. And surviving stress, if we can think of, I wanted to give our participants these very visual. How do we do that? Like, again, this beautiful bird. You need to rise. This is what we're breaking down in the sessions that we're working together on. We're going to really spend some good time in this rise. And we did this because it's so inspirational. So now that I know that Mary is a trigger, what do I do? Because Mary might be crazy. There's that distinct possibility that you're taking on Mary's emotions when Mary is just a level 3 person and there's nothing you can do about Mary. But what you can do, Karen, is you can regulate.
I can
be aware.
Definitely.
Exactly. And then what do? You initiate.
Try like a scientist. Try out, could it be different? Could I get a different relationship with Mary?
You're on the S already. So you're such a quick study, you want to go right to that S, all right? So you're at that self and social awareness. That's that gateway. What we do in our sessions together is we open up those filing cabinet drawers We look inside those folders. And again, it's not easy, but part of being strong is being vulnerable. I can't emphasize that enough. We have strength confused, just like we have stress confused. You have to be prepared to say, my gosh, I'm in level 2 threat. Let me better understand where this is coming from. Because sometimes it's just your file folder or Pendaflex, and we just really have to replace it with a new one, with a healthier one. So that's what we want to go through for the second part of our session, is really looking at how do we get there? How do we get to that place? This is a donation from our psychiatrist.
Joan?
Yes.
We have prepared a second survey. So what stresses people? Maybe before
Perfect.
we go there, it's a good place now to start the survey. The big message. So work-life balance has the most points.
Okay.
And the second followed by, yes, there are more stresses than just one, and even more than two. So it's work-life balance, followed by work environment, followed by family.
Okay. All right. Very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Karen, I'm going to send you a couple slides on their own, so that if anybody wants to, print these, this particular one is very healthy in that if you can pick what your emotion is. Again, we see these things and we think, well, yeah, sure, that makes sense. We don't do it. As women, we don't take the time to understand about this emotional self-care. And our psychiatrist uses this with her children. So she actually has it at home. And after they return from school, she said, okay, I want you to pick your emotion. And she helps them work through their emotions. So often, again, we keep them bottled up. We don't talk about it. And again, that's unhealthy. And just going through this paradigm better helps you develop the cycle of these emotions. So even if you walk through it on your own, so often it's what you've downloaded as a perception. But again, that beautiful rainbow, just like this rainbow, can be worked to. Maybe, again, we have to just build the competencies to be fending off the things that are really stressing us out. It might be really important to you, but it might not be really important to your family. So what is important? These are great conversations that we're seeing being had over COVID. So again, when we're looking at this next slide, I'd love our participants to be thinking about, I know I'm triggered by work-life balance, right? So if that's the thing, what could I do differently? Am I taking on all the responsibility? Is it time to get more structured in our family? This person does this person does this, right? Again, do we just continue to do it and run ourselves ragged? Or do we just make that one slight change? See, it doesn't have to be a New Year's resolution, and people who go through our classes in 2021 will see that. It's that, even that smallest piece, taking that baby step is getting you on that road to recovery. So I've shared with you how much energy the brain requires. It requires a multitude of different food. And I'm not talking about the ones we ingest. That's certainly part of it, but there's so much that goes into keeping the brain healthy. If you can find an exercise you love, that's the key. You have to love it. It cannot be, oh, I can't believe I have to do this. For me, it's swimming, it's riding a bike, it's walking. but there's certain things that I've been involved with that I just dreaded, and I would think of anything so I didn't have to do it. The blood flow, when you're in a level 1 threat, if you just go on a walk, that activity is going to bring down that level 1, right? The brain loves the act of writing. See, everybody thinks it's about the journal and the notes. Certainly important, but there's something for the brain when you put it down. You know, again, we're very, very much into this oral communication, right? We talk, write it, read it, challenge it. And what is amazing about when you go to that rainbow brain, you're going to start to see that you're more creative. You're going to come up with ideas that you haven't. Why? Because you're pulling out this new drawer. This is a drawer that you haven't accessed before. And all of a sudden you're going to see, wow, this is neuroplasticity. Yes, yes it is. Because often I don't know what you hear, and I'd love to have you weigh in, but in America, and we do a ton of work in Canada, what we hear all the time is, well, I got a bad pit in my stomach. That's your second brain. All that means is you don't have it in your filing cabinet yet. So your second brain is letting you know that. Push back. Don't stop. We always hear people say, oh, I don't have a good gut feeling. No, that's just your brain saying, wait a minute, I opened up your drawer and you don't have it in here. That doesn't mean you can't get it in there. Mm-hmm. Do you say that in your country? I have a bad gut feeling.
We do. In Germany, definitely. I hear it less here in Switzerland because the Swiss are so much positive-minded that they will find something positive in everything. So
that's wonderful.
That's a very, very nice attitude, I must say.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm German.
Yes.
And I really had to learn it. So I find writing down something that really calms the situation, because then it has its place. I've written it.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yes, I can start that mind, unlimited circle. And I think also, so this is the first thing I always do, and then I go for a walk to get my body, exercise it out. There's don't have the time, which happens sometimes. One of my tactics is to say, okay, there was a crisis, I'm now in level 2 or whatever, but I'll put it, I have to concentrate, to focus on the rest of the day, and I'll put it in a little box. And the name of the box, I will worry about it today at 9 o'clock.
Oh, and wonderful.
Then, at 9 o'clock in the evening, then I can decide whether it's still relevant or...
Exactly, right. You're working through those emotions, much like that wheel, without a doubt. It's amazing what our mind thinks about exercise. So in America, they did a study with maids in a large hotel chain, and they asked the maids if they were getting exercise while they worked. And the maid said no. So they asked permission to give them a Fitbit. So they gave them all an apparatus that measured their steps, measured their calories, all of those things. And they did that for 3 months. And after the 3 months, they showed the maids how many calories they were actually burning at work. Karen, from that point, the maids started to lose weight. But because they had never believed that making a bed, folding clothes, putting out shampoo bottles were exercise, they never believed that they were losing weight and in shape. That's how powerful this mind is. Be very, very mindful. So if you're a parent and you're thinking, you know what, I can't get out and take a walk or whatever, there are things you can do folding clothes that get your aerobic activities, right? Shake your kids. No, not really. I'm not professing shaking your kids, although I know when they're home all the time, there might be a temptation to do that. Like we did aerobics. But, again, be thinking about what it is that you're telling yourself, because it's very, very important. If, again, nutritionally, what we find is that female brains need more leafy greens than male brains do. They actually need more carnivore than we do. So again, if you are limited or running around, be very careful of what you ingest, and if it is the most impactful brain food that you can find. So I wanted to share, Karen, just some tips, and I know we're going to get into a lot more, but I want to share some tips prior to our 2021 sessions. So there's a lot of beliefs that we harbor in our fixed mindset that actually are not healthy for the brain. And when you talk to people about meditation, they think they have to sit cross-legged. They think they have to go into this formal process. It's not true. You can take a walk and you can meditate. Again, just don't think, just look at the beauty around you. For participants today, I would love them to Google your brain on a walk and see the rainbow that happens when you go on a walk. So find, again, don't look at the traditional, if you said to yourself, hey, you know what, no, I don't like to meditate, I can't meditate, I have too much energy to meditate. It's because the way you're looking at meditation. Throw a rainbow at that. Throw a growth mindset at that, and you'll be amazed at how you can make meditation work for you.
And what I, just to kick in here, what I found out, in the beginning, when I was in investment banking, I said, oh, I don't have the time to meditate or to go for a walk. I have to work from 6 in the morning until 12 at night.
Right.
And what I found out, when I go for a walk or when I do a very short meditation, then I'm in a different mindset. So then the ideas come back to me. I'm losing the tunnel.
Right.
Sometimes you could say, well, I'm in a tunnel. I have to do this and that and that and that. And meditation and time in nature really might bring you in smart ideas, which allow you to do the job much quicker than if you stay in your tunnel. It's a little bit like a contradiction, but for me it works.
Karen, I can't emphasize enough, it's brain food. That is brain food. You have to be thinking about if you're feeding your brain or not. Taking that walk, what you're doing, that oxygen flow, all of those things, that's brain food. If you could even give your mind a rest, like I said, if you take a hot bath and you just close your eyes, any of those things, it doesn't have to be an official meditation. You don't have to be a monk. All right. Yes. So it's so healthy. And again, even if you Google different forms of meditation, you're going to be amazed, whether it's on your iPhone, whether it's on some type of apparatus, this is such a healthy way. All right. So as we look at the next slide, I cannot tell you how important laughter is. You are in an optimistic, country, which is wonderful. But again, if you're feeling level 2, take a break. I don't know why people love cat videos and watching some of these turtles lay eggs. But you know what? If that's the YouTube that makes you laugh or takes you away from your normal, that is so healthy for you. When you look at the impact laughter has on your brain, it is absolutely amazing. So these things that we think, no, like you, I have to work till from 6 a.m. to midnight. Your brain was not designed to work that way, Karen. It was not designed to work that way.
or longer.
That's right. That's exactly right. And again, we do a ton of work in time management. And what we always say to people is, if you put your hardest task first, it is amazing. So you have to go and have a conversation with Mary. I hope we don't have any Marys. If you have to have a conversation with Mary, how do you prepare for that conversation? If you write it down, if you practice it, all of those things are very, very healthy for your brain. Meet Mary first thing. Get it off your plate. You're going to notice that you have this collective sigh of relief, which is very, very powerful. So that's what we always do, because when you look at the biological clock that each one of us have, if you monitor your daily activities, you're going to find that there are specific times during the day where you have more energy. And if you monitor that, that's where I would put your most difficult task. And you're going to find that time management is less of an issue. So it's just a great thing to be thinking about. And with the companies that we work with, within their Microsoft Outlook, within their Google Teams, we designate specific times in their schedule to wander. Because I'm going to tell you, the brain is not designed to stay focused. It is not a situation where I get like everybody thinks that they can be focused for their 8, 9, 10-hour day. Again, it's scientifically impossible. So if you work within the natural order of the brain and you plan these breaks, you're going to see how your energy goes up. That's why standing desks have become so the rage. It's brain food, getting different blood flow. So if you're standing and then you're sitting, standing and then you're sitting, this is all brain food. And Karen, this is the inspiration that I really want to leave our participants with. Look at this lonely connection, this lonely brain connection in slide 1. Lonely, lonely, Karen, it's lonely. Just doing something different for 2 weeks. Look at where that connection is going. Now we've ignited this rainbow, right? Look at after 2 months, you got a forest.
Yeah, a biotope.
You got a forest. This is neuroplasticity, ladies. And now this rainbow is now supported by this beautiful forest. And you're going to start to see the difference in, and again, I know we really break this down in our upcoming classes, but you're going to see the difference in how it is you're feeling in that very, very, I want to go back to that rainbow for a moment. In that very, tangible and positive way. You can absolutely get to this beauty, but it takes step 1. I am stressed. That's so important. Step 2 is, I see how this could cause a problem to my mental health. I don't want to diminish my mental health. Karen, do you know that the people that access their brain this way can fend off dementia and Alzheimer's for up to a decade?
Yep, I know.
I like my brain, Karen. I like my brain.
Yeah, I love my brain.
I like it.
It does everything I wanted to do. I have to tell him. I have to tell it.
And there's not any better reason, even if it's familiar, if you can bring in these stress busting exercises, you can fend off Alzheimer's and dementia for up to a decade.
Yeah.
So taking that step and saying, okay, I recognize that I shouldn't be between 5 or 10, which is level 2 and level 3. How do I break that cycle, right? Admittance. And then it is a problem, because I'm going to tell you, it's going to affect your body, or it's going to affect your soul, or it's going to affect your brain. It's going to go somewhere. The brain can't just get it removed through osmosis. It breaks down your body. Don't let it do that. Don't let it do that.
At the same time, I must say, it's hard in the beginning to integrate that, but it gets easier over time because it becomes a habit, and you have more neuroplasticity, which supports it. So the biotop, or the forest, how you call it, supports it over time.
Yes.
And this is where you can open up and do more, because it will just happen naturally.
You're exactly right. And again, we always make these very aggressive plans. If you just said, when I'm getting in level 2, I'm going to take 5 minutes and I'm going to do 10 deep breathing exercises. Just that, your brain is lighting up, because it's not going to level 3. You're doing something different outside of your filing cabinets. And the brain is like, what? What are you doing? You want me to do something different?
Wayne will say, I want to have my level 3, but yeah. When you breathe, you break the cycle.
You got it. You got it. So it's just those small bite-sized pieces. And to your point, you see what happens after 2 months. Now it becomes a new Pendaflex. It becomes a new resource to you. And you can build on it and build on it and build on it in a really powerful way. So as we're getting to the end of our program, what questions, what comments, how can I continue to help? Is this resonating?
Yeah, let's open the floor for questions, please.
Okay.
So if nobody has a question, my question to the audience would be, what of these tools do you think are the most useful to you? And while you're thinking about that, my question to Joanne is, well, there are also a number of supplements, like curcuma and stuff, and recommendations like in the Power Up Your Brain book from David Perlmutter. He's a neuroscience professor in the US. What do you think of that?
The only thing that I would say in regards to supplements are, often we don't think that a physician has to be involved when we're taking some type of vitamin, but very much you should be consulting with some type of medical professional before you take any type of supplements. My unfortunate situation is my sister was just diagnosed with breast cancer. And when they looked at her package of supplements, it actually has delayed her chemotherapy because it was not under doctor's orders. She had never even discussed her supplements with the one and only one other medication that she was taking. So again, we tend to believe that it's very natural. We tend to believe that all of these items are non-essential in terms of having a conversation. The brain is a lot better, Karen, with actual food. Any nutrients that you can get from food is the brain's preference. So leafy, anything of color is so important to a female brain. We actually have different curvatures in our brain than men do. And they think it has to do with we're better multitaskers than men. We see how men's brains are naturally wired for sports, where we're not as naturally wired. It's not that females don't like it, but again, there is a neurological origin for that. They're wired to be more hunters. We're wired to be more nurturers. We don't know, there's not enough research to say how that really all plays out at work, but the more nutritional things that you can do for your brain, food-wise, especially, you're gonna definitely, processed foods are terrible for the brain. And especially if you have children that are on processed foods, I can say to you, they only have a half a brain. They only have their emotional brain. They don't get their full brain until anywhere between 25 to 28. You need to be very, very mindful of what you're feeding your children. Well, that's, direct correlations to ADHD and things of that is so much nutritionally based. Processed foods are not good for the brain.
Thank you. So,
Sylvia speaking, I would have a question if this is okay.
Sure.
Why is the brain lighting up so much when getting new information? So what is happening in the brains to make it light up?
Okay, great question. So within your filing cabinets, and that's our analogy for the brain, it is your storage system. So it is this collection of experiences that you've created over the course of your lifetime. So now what happens is throughout our daily interactions, you shortcut to those experiences. It doesn't require any energy on the brain. That's why it's dark. It will go to that file folder and say, oh, this happened before with Mary. This is what you do. You become afraid. So it shortcuts there. When you have a new idea, it's not in your storage system. It goes to your short-term memory. So when the brain can't find it within your storage system, it creates energy or lights up. And it's like, well, wait a minute here. You don't have an experience or a frame of reference for that. That's a new idea. So that's actually what happens is that it lights because you're actually using it. You're working it out. You're exercising it. So if you ever looked at your arms or your stomach and you looked at a high functioning MRI about working out, and you can see how there's a friction, it lights in the exact same way the brain would. That's what's happening because it's new, because you're working out, you create those colors. And neuroplasticity is if you do it every day, then you're creating these new, more healthy habits. It will eventually get stored in your fixed mindset and that will go dark. But if you continue to create these new ideas, that's where that energy, that friction comes from. Jean, do you have a question?
Thank you. That was a good explanation to understand.
Thank you.
No, I'm all good, Joan. I took a drink of my water and there's probably ice in it, so you probably heard that rustling.
All right, wonderful. Thank you.
Yep.
So there's actually a question in the chat.
Okay, wonderful.
I'm just going to read it out. It says, how can you destroy biotopes? I think it is really hard to get out of patterns you learned when you were very young. Or do you have to overlap those with new ones?
They're exactly right. These patterns that have been created in your brain are so tough to break. That's absolutely true. But you can break them. But again, I'm going to go back to the steps. How do you break them? Step one is I'm finding this as a problem. So let's just say that I'm not feeling good. I'm tired. I'm not getting enough rest. Whatever symptom it is that you're finding is destructive to your well-being, identify it, recognize it. I'm not sleeping that well. That is definitely the basis of not sleeping well is stress. I can tell you unequivocally. So now that you recognize that you're not sleeping well, and it's obviously the brain replenishes during sleep hours. Sleep is very, very important to the brain. It's absolutely brain food. So if you're not getting into that wonderful sleep mode, that's a huge problem. So you identify this. Now that you know it and you recognize it's a hazard, step two, what's step three? How can you work to change the pattern? Don't look at a computer. And you shouldn't be looking at a computer. Those blue screens are very toxic to the brain before bed. So if you're doing any type of activity on the computer, I would say I would have a specific cutoff. So maybe from 7 p.m., don't look at a computer, all right? then what could you do instead? You could journal, which is very, very healthy. But journal, not negative thoughts. I can't emphasize that enough. What I want you to journal about is, what are you thankful today about? What have you done that is really special? Women have a really, really hard time being kind to themselves. It might take you several renditions. Maybe you want to put a goal in there about what you want to accomplish the next day. I'm going to reach out to Mary. Whatever it is, what happens is when you go to sleep, your brain will continue with that concept. They gave a bunch of college students Tetris. That's that one game of patterns and trying to look at how do we get to the end? How do we build this particular activity so that we can leave this game through points, etc. And what they found is when the students did it right before bed, the brain was still trying to solve the pattern. So it was continuing. So be very mindful of what you're doing before rest. Again, that might be a really great time to do something like a meditation, hot bath. Again, something for yourself. What we're talking about here is how do we calm our nervous system? Karen said it earlier. How do we calm the nervous system? So change an activity that better supports your general well-being.
Well, and even if you go further, so the question is, when you realize I do have a bad or an unhealthy pattern, and this can be, so I'm breaking each and every relationship after 3 years or whatever, so the harder stuff. Then the question is, how can I unlearn that behavior?
Practice.
And how can I create a different perspective? So it will require that you rewrite the stories that you have been telling yourself. It will require that you sit down and write my story. This is my story. This is how I have always done it. This is how I believe it. And this is my belief system. And then the question is, how can you change the perspective? How could it be, or how do you want it to be?
Right. And again, it's not just an inspirational talk, right? This isn't just about, smoke and mirrors here. Think about an Olympic athlete. That's what I do, right? Although the brain is an organ, it acts like a muscle. All right. So imagine the practice that an Olympic athlete goes through. And boy, they don't just work out. I followed Michael Phelps' workout routine. And it is amazing what he does. And if anybody has ever seen Michael Phelps, our Olympic swimmer, at the Olympics, he's got a headset in, right? And often you would think, well, he's listening to rap, he's listening to this. There is actually a German neuroscientist that has worked with Olympic athletes. And what they do is they put in those headphones and he shares a commentary with them to get them mentally prepared for the race. That's what they're listening to. They're consistently reinforcing the mental preparation, the physical part of it about how his core has to be strong, his arms. That takes repetitiveness. It takes exercise. It takes a commitment. This is not something you can do once. If you just take that small piece, again, just that small piece, look at a New Year's resolution. I want to lose 12 pounds, right? What do? We weigh ourselves in January. I lost a pound. I'm not going to do this. But if you said instead, oh my gosh, I'm on goal. I lost a pound. By the end of the year, I'm going to have lost 12. We make our goals so lofty. They don't need to be lofty. They just need to be that small change to get you started. And then you'll see how you build on them. But I hope, Karen, as everybody leaves here today, they'll think about all the visuals I've shared.
Yes, and we will share them definitely. And I also hear that we have recorded this session, so we will make it available. Is that correct, Marina?
Yeah, it is correct. Yeah,
okay. Yes.
Perfect. Perfect.
And,
So yes, and I'll send you again, Karen, some separate documents so that if any of our participants want to take them and print them out and even write their goals on them, that
Yeah.
would be the biggest compliment that anyone can give us for this session today. We'd love to hear their stories. We'll promote them on social media as
Yes.
emotional intelligence pioneers.
Yeah. Great. We should give access maybe to this group. Yeah.
Yes.
Because we're positive thinking and not, well, looking the Tatort and murder stories or, is really
Yeah, I'm
part of the brain exercise, brain food
Yes.
exercise. So
Yes.
how can you keep yourself focused on positive thoughts, on positive affirmations, on really focused on where you want to go? Yeah.
Without a doubt. So Karen, did we accomplish what you hoped we would for our time together today?
So let's ask the audience. For me, definitely. So maybe we can have some comments from the audience, what you liked, what can be improved.
So I actually have a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did I understand correctly that the first stage of stress is actually somehow productive and healthy because it makes you it helps you get more focused, and that's the stress that you can form into positive stress, as for example motivation and all that. So would you say that this first stage is actually healthy and that we should go look for this first phase of stress?
No. So let me clarify that. So thank you. I'm so glad they asked. So stress comes in two formats. Stress can be fight or flight. I see something that's dangerous and I have to prepare to escape it, right? Or something has happened to a loved one and I go into this fight or flight. Wait a minute, my student didn't get off the bus. Where is my student, right? Anything that takes you to that fear level where you completely and totally, you can feel yourself in full-blown anxiety, and we've all felt it. Your heart is racing. You can feel your pulse. We know our blood pressure has gone up. And all you can think about is the task at hand, fight or flight, all right? That's one type of way in which the body protects us and helps us focus on harm, all right? It's a natural occurrence. The other type of stress is when you have a particular goal, like I want to be in the Olympics, so I'm going to push myself, I'm going to exercise more, I'm going to eat different ingredients. That's wonderful because that gets you to a goal. It's competition, you're pushing yourself. That's a wonderful type of stress. But then we've heard the word stress fracture. That's when you break that bone because you've worked too much on it. That's the negative stress. That's when you stay in that level 2 threat, where there is that constant stress. It never goes away. So Karen used the example of the work that she was doing, the amount of hours that she was putting in, about how she was always tense. That is unhealthy stress. The brain was not designed for constant stress. That's when your body starts to break down. Your mind starts to break down, or your body. You're going to see physical ramifications of that. It could lead to depression. It could lead to obesity. You start to create habits that are unhealthy. Any people that are in constant stress, what we hope we've given you is the tools to calm your nervous system. The exercise example, the meditation example, laughter, imploring and executing on any of the habits that we've shared here today will help you lower that constant stress. You do not want to be in a constant stress place. It is unhealthy. And when we get into, Marina, when we get into our emotional intelligence, and for the people who take the assessment, that is an amazing tool for you to get a real idea of where you are currently. Like, we're going to be looking at that, and you're going to have this wonderful user guide, and we're really going to take a peek inside what's going on in your brain. But no, there's fight or flight, normal stress. I'm going to stretch to get to a goal, normal stretch. What isn't is constant stress. Constant stress, no, no, no. That's our theme for today. No, no, no. Stop, stop, stop that.
Joanne, I still have one more question, because
Of course.
when we talk about fight or flight, so this is our limbic system, right?
Mhm.
And when we talk about stress, this is how we call it here in Europe. So this positive stress is a different area in the brain when you're thinking in your ideas, when you have a goal, when you say, I want to go there, I will motivate myself, I have my ears, sticks, and I'm playing the positive music or the positive affirmation. Yep. That's a different part of the brain, right?
Exactly. So when we look at the pleasure section of the brain, and it's very, very interesting. If you can believe it, the UK is doing extensive work on dogs in the brain. And they're looking at dogs' reward system in their threat region. And they train these dogs for months to go in these high-resolution MRI machines. And what they do is they give them some type of article of clothing to smell, because obviously that's a prevalent sense for them. And when they smell the article of clothing from their owner, the pleasure section of their brain lights up. There's other things that they give the animals, and the threat region of their brain lights up. It's the same for humans. When you're positive, when you say to yourself, you know what? I don't know this yet, but I'm going to figure it out. Rainbow. When you say to yourself, you know what an idiot I am. I can't believe I did something so stupid. Threat, the threat region of your brain lights. And what we're finding, I actually lost a very, very close friend to suicide during the pandemic. And he was in a verbally abusive relationship. And words to the brain are the exact same thing as a physical blow. The pain section of your brain lights up. And physical words actually can be more harmful to the brain than physical, because words stay with you longer than actually a bruise does. So be very, very, very careful what you're saying to yourself. Pleasure section of your brain versus pain section of your brain, you decide. See, these are all things we have control over. That's emotional intelligence. That's EQ.
Yeah, and there's also a book by an American therapist named My Voice Will Go With You. And this is really rewriting this verbal abuses. This is normally what therapists do, because the therapist voice will go with the person, but you can also do it yourself. I mean.
Yeah, and one of the comments was, you know, do we have any slides of that? Do we have any pictures of that? And I'm sure we do. So I'll find those for you, Karen, and include it in this. I'm going to really get this narrowed down for you. I'll work on it with Jamie next week. It's our Thanksgiving in America, but I'll try to do that prior to that. And I'll show you the different scans, because I think it's really interesting for people to see what's going on inside of their head. Because I'm hoping that's enough evidence for change. Don't have a dark brain, have a rainbow brain.
Yeah.
Have a rainbow brain.
Yeah, create a rainbow brain.
Yes, challenge yourself, you know, and again, you know, I'm not asking you to jump out of an airplane if you're afraid of heights, but, you know, maybe you go up 5 flights and look down. Any of those bite-sized pieces, right?
I think so. In systems analytics, we talk about leverage point analysis, and it's very often you have to change only 3 to 5%, and then you're in a completely different situation. It doesn't mean you have to change your entire life all at once. So
that's
on the track, and you will find out after you did the 3%. So the next challenge will come. So you will find out, I want to change this, I want to change that. So it puts you on a journey.
Yeah. So from that perspective, Karen, I want to thank you. You've been a wonderful partner in this. You've been a wonderful partner. I want to thank all the participants. Again, we would love to hear from you. Please link in with me, or again, you could certainly email me directly, and I'll make sure that you have all the contact information as well. And we would be more than happy to get you, a white paper. I mean, we collect a ton of data, so whatever it is that you need. You have Jamie. She's our Marina, and so she's wonderful to us as well. So don't hesitate again to drop a note. We're happy to help in any way that we can, and it's truly been an honor and pleasure to be part of this wonderful event. And so glad that we had this opportunity, and we hope we see you in January as we really explore this topic in more depth.
Yeah, so I want to thank you, Joan and Jean, for a very thriving and amazing session. I want to thank our audience, for being so wonderful with so great questions. And Marina, thank you for doing our survey and for staying with us all the time. So you have been really our good Ginny. And any questions can be sent to Karen at swissfintechladies.ch. And Marina, I trust you will give the email to everybody so that we can follow up.
Marina loved it. I could see Marina's rainbow brain. I can see how I can see it. I can see it. It's all wonderful. That's great stuff.
Yeah,
great stuff.
Thank you so much.
We stay in touch. We will provide you with access to this ECO Pioneers group, and so our email is either hello@swissfintechladies.ch or Karen@swissfintechladies.ch. We will distribute them, Marina, I think, together with all the other information, and we really hope that we will stay in touch with you all, and that we see you at one of our next sessions, and that we keep in contact in the groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds great. Great interaction, great question. Thank you.
And thank you, Joanne, for supporting
No problem. No problem. Take care, everyone. Great seeing you.
Thank you.